The morning sun cast long shadows across Daniel Crawford's struggling farm when he first heard the engine sputtering on the dusty road beyond his property line. At 42, Daniel had learned to recognize the sound of automotive trouble. It was a language he'd become fluent in through necessity and years of keeping old equipment running on hope and prayers. He looked up from checking his ancient tractor, wiping grease-stained hands on his worn jeans, and saw an expensive silver luxury car pulled over with its hood up. A young woman in an elegant champagne-colored dress stood beside it, holding her phone high in the air, clearly searching for a signal that wouldn't come in this remote corner of Kansas. Her blonde hair caught the morning light, and even from a distance Daniel could see the frustration in her posture. Everything about her spoke of wealth and sophistication, from her designer sunglasses to her perfectly manicured appearance. She was as out of place on this rural road as a rose in a wheat field. Daniel's first instinct was to mind his own business. He had enough troubles without getting involved with stranded city folk. His farm was 3 months behind on the mortgage, his crops were struggling through another drought year, and his pride had taken enough hits lately. But his mother's voice echoed in his memory. A person's worth isn't measured by what they have, Danny, but by what they're willing to give when someone needs help. Daniel grabbed his toolbox and walked toward the road. "Excuse me, miss. Looks like you're having some car trouble." The young woman turned, and Daniel was struck by her bright blue eyes, which showed more vulnerability than her confident appearance suggested. "Oh, thank goodness," she said, relief evident in her voice. "I'm Sophia Montgomery. My car just died, and there's no cell service out here. I don't suppose you know anything about luxury vehicles." Daniel couldn't help but smile at the gentle irony. "Well, I've been keeping machines running for most of my life. Let me take a look." As he examined the engine, Daniel was aware of Sophia watching him work. Her phone remained in her hand, but she'd stopped trying to get a signal. "You live around here?" she asked, her tone genuinely curious rather than condescending. "Born and raised on that farm over there," Daniel said, pointing to his modest homestead. "Fourth-generation Crawford to work this land. It must be nice having such deep roots in one place." Something in her voice made Daniel glance up from the engine. "You don't sound like someone who's had that experience." Sophia was quiet for a moment. "My father and I, we move in circles where everyone knows your net worth before they know your name. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to be valued for something other than my family's money." Daniel found the problem, a loose connection that had caused the electrical system to fail. As he worked to fix it, he found himself stealing glances at this unexpected visitor. "There," he said finally, closing the hood. "Try starting her up now." The engine purred to life immediately. Sophia's face lit up with genuine gratitude. "You're a miracle worker. How much do I owe you?" Daniel wiped his hands on a rag, considering. "Nothing, just being neighborly." "Nothing?" Sophia looked genuinely confused. "But you took time from your work, used your tools. Sometimes people help because it's the right thing to do, not because there's something in it for them." For a moment, Sophia simply stared at him as if he'd spoken a foreign language. "Would you..." She hesitated. "Would you mind if I asked you something? What's it like living here? Really living here, not just visiting?" Daniel leaned against her car, surprised by the question. "It's honest work, hard work. Some years are better than others. This year," he gestured toward his struggling fields, "this year's testing my faith pretty thoroughly." "Are you married? Family?" "Was married." She decided farm life wasn't what she wanted after all. "Can't say I blame her. It's not an easy life for everyone." Sophia nodded thoughtfully. "I'm sorry. That must have been difficult." "Life has a way of teaching us what we can handle and what we can't," Daniel said simply. "What about you? What brings a city girl out to the middle of nowhere, Kansas?" "I was visiting a college friend in Topeka. Got turned around on the back. Roads trying to find a shortcut." She paused. "My father would have a fit if he knew I was out here alone." "Protective." Controlling, Sophia corrected gently. He means well, but he sees the world as full of people who want to take advantage of our family's success. It makes it hard to know who genuinely cares about you versus who cares about what you represent. Daniel studied her face, seeing past the designer clothes to the loneliness underneath. That sounds like its own kind of prison. It is, she admitted quietly. Over the next few weeks, Daniel was surprised to find Sophia returning. She'd rent a car in town and drive out to his farm, always with some excuse. She wanted to see what rural life was really like. She was interested in sustainable farming. She needed a break from the city. Each visit lasted a little longer. She'd sit on his porch while he worked on equipment, asking questions about farming, about his family's history on the land, about what it meant to build something with your own hands. You know, Daniel said one afternoon as they watched the sunset paint the wheat fields gold. You never did tell me what your father does for a living. Sophia was quiet for so long that Daniel thought she might not answer. He owns Montgomery Technologies, she said finally. You probably haven't heard of it. Daniel nearly choked on his coffee. Montgomery Technologies was one of the largest tech companies in the world. Everyone had heard of it. Sophia, he began. Please don't look at me differently, she said quickly. For the first time in my adult life, someone sees me as just me. Not as Thomas Montgomery's daughter, not as a trust fund, not as a business opportunity. Just Sophia. Daniel set down his coffee cup and looked at her. Really looked at her. You're still the same person who's been sitting on my porch for 3 weeks asking thoughtful questions and helping me shell peas. Your father's bank account doesn't change who you are, doesn't it? Not to me. 2 months later, Daniel stood in his kitchen, staring at the foreclosure notice that had arrived that morning. Despite his best efforts, despite working 18-hour days and selling off equipment, he was going to lose the farm that had been in his family for 4 generations. He was still holding the letter when Sophia arrived for her usual visit. Daniel? What's wrong? He handed her the notice without a word. Sophia read it twice, her face growing pale. How much do you need? Sophia, no. How much? I won't take your money. I won't be another person trying to use you for what your family. Harris, what if I'm not offering because of what my family has? She asked quietly. What if I'm offering because of what you've given me? You've shown me what it feels like to be valued for who I am, not what I'm worth. You've let me help with your work, treated me like I had something to contribute. Do you know how rare that is in my world? Daniel looked into her eyes, seeing the same vulnerability he'd noticed that first day on the road. There's something else, Sophia continued. I don't want to just save your farm. I want to be part of it, part of this life you've built, if you'll have me. Sophia, you don't understand what you're saying. This isn't some romantic idea of country living. It's hard work, uncertain income, and more heartbreak than triumph most years. I've lived with certain income and uncertain hearts my whole life, she said. I'd rather have the opposite. 6 months later, Daniel stood in the same spot where he'd first seen Sophia's broken-down car. But now she stood beside him, her designer dresses replaced by work boots and jeans, her manicured hands now calloused from honest labor. Any regrets? He asked, watching her survey their flourishing fields. About leaving behind my old life? None. She leaned against him, comfortable in her own skin in a way she'd never been before. About falling in love with a farmer who's too stubborn to accept help gracefully? That's still up for debate. Daniel laughed, pulling her closer. Your father's still not speaking to you. He'll come around. Eventually he'll realize that I didn't marry beneath me. I married into the life I was always meant to live. As they walked back toward the farmhouse, Daniel reflected on how quickly life could change. Sometimes the most profound transformations begin with the simplest act of kindness. Stopping to help a stranger in need, seeing past appearances to the person underneath, having the courage to trust that love can bridge any gap between 2 different worlds. In the end, he realized it wasn't about her money or his land. It was about 2 people finding in each other exactly what they'd been searching for all along. acceptance, purpose, and the kind of love that grows stronger through shared work and mutual respect.